On the evening of November 10, 1975, a behemoth of the Great Lakes, the SS Edmond Fitzgerald, vanished from radar screens during a ferocious storm. The ship, along with its 29 crew members, sank in the frigid waters of Lake Superior, leaving behind a mystery that endures to this day. What happened to the Queen of the Lakes? Let's dive deep into one of the most famous and haunting shipwrecks in maritime history. Launched in 1958, the Edmond Fitzgerald was, at the time, the largest ship on the Great Lakes. At 729 feet long, she was a true workhorse. Built to haul taconite iron ore from mines in Minnesota to steel mills near Detroit and Toledo. For 17 years, she faithfully plied these waters, setting records for cargo loads and earning a reputation as a proud and reliable vessel. Her captain, Ernest McSorley, was a veteran of the lakes, a man with over 40 years of experience who was highly respected by his peers. The crew were seasoned professionals, many of them having spent their entire careers on the water. On November 9, 1975, the Fitzgerald departed from Superior, Wisconsin, fully loaded with over 26,000 tons of taconite pellets. Her destination was a steel mill near Detroit, a journey that should have been routine. Weather forecasts predicted a storm, but gales are a common feature of the Great Lakes in November, and captains like McSorley were accustomed to navigating them. Another freighter, the SS Arthur M. Anderson, was traveling a similar route, and the two ships maintained radio contact as the weather began to worsen. By the afternoon of November 10th, the storm had intensified into a full-blown hurricane-force blizzard. Winds gusted up to 90 miles per hour, and waves swelled to monstrous heights of 35 feet, crashing over the decks of both ships. Captain McSorley of the Fitzgerald radioed Captain Cooper of the Anderson, reporting, that his ship was taking on water and had lost 2 vent covers and a section of railing. This was concerning, but not yet a Mayday situation. McSorley also mentioned that both of his radar units were out of commission, leaving him to navigate blind through the storm. The Anderson, which still had functional radar, began to guide the Fitzgerald towards the relative safety of Whitefish Bay. The reply from Captain McSorley was calm and collected. "We are holding our own." These would be the last words ever heard from the Edmond Fitzgerald. Just minutes later, the ship disappeared from the Anderson's radar. There was no distress call, no mayday, no sign of what had just happened. She was there one moment and gone the next. The immediate aftermath was one of confusion and disbelief. Captain Cooper of the Anderson, fearing the worst, alerted the U.S. Coast Guard. A massive search and rescue operation was launched, but the severe weather hampered efforts. It was a harrowing night. The Anderson and other brave crews turned back into the storm to search for survivors, but all they found were scattered pieces of debris, life rings, life jackets, and 2 heavily damaged lifeboats. Not a single member of the 29-man crew was ever found. 3 days later, on November 14th, a U.S. Navy aircraft equipped with a magnetic anomaly detector located a large underwater object. Subsequent sonar scans confirmed it was a shipwreck. Lying in 2 large pieces on the floor of Lake Superior, 530 feet below the surface. The Edmond Fitzgerald had been found, just 17 miles from the safety of Whitefish Bay, but finding the wreck only opened up more questions. What caused a ship of this size and strength to sink so suddenly and without a distress call? The official U.S. Coast Guard investigation concluded that the most likely cause was the flooding of the cargo hold. They theorized that the missing hatch covers, which McSorley had reported earlier, allowed massive waves to pour water into the hold. This gradual flooding would have caused the ship to lose buoyancy, sit lower in the water, and eventually nosedive into a massive wave, plunging to the bottom. However, many in the maritime community disputed this theory. They argued that if the hatches had failed, the crew would have known they were in critical danger and issued a mayday. An alternative theory proposed by the Lake Carriers Association, suggests the ship ran aground on the 6 Fathom Shoal, a treacherous, shallow reef near Caribou Island. They believe the ship unknowingly scraped the bottom, tearing a gash in the hull. This damage, combined with the stress of the storm, would have caused the ship to weaken and eventually break apart. Captain Cooper of the Anderson later stated that his radar showed the Fitzgerald passing dangerously close to the shoal, lending credence to this idea. Another compelling theory involves the Three Sisters, a phenomenon where 3 rogue waves, one after the other, strike a vessel. The first wave crashes over the deck, adding immense weight. The second wave hits before the water from the first has cleared, pushing the bow down. The third wave then rolls over the struggling ship, driving it under the surface. Given the 35-foot waves reported that night, a series of rogue waves could have easily overwhelmed the Fitzgerald, sinking her in a matter of seconds. This would explain the lack of a distress call. The event would have been too sudden for the crew to react. In 1994, a dive expedition led by explorer Fred Shannon brought back stunning high-definition footage of the wreck. The images were haunting. The bow section sits upright and relatively intact, while the stern is upside down, about 170 feet away. The midsection is a devastating field of twisted metal and spilled taconite, confirming the ship broke apart violently. Perhaps the most poignant discovery was the ship's bell. In 1995, in a joint U.S.-Canadian mission, the bell was recovered from the wreck. It was a solemn and respectful operation, carried out as a memorial to the crew. The bell now resides at the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum at Whitefish Point, where it serves as a tribute to the 29 men who lost their lives. A replica bell, inscribed with the names of the crewmen, was placed back on the wreck in its place. The sinking of the Edmond Fitzgerald had a lasting impact on Great Lakes shipping regulations. Changes were made to require more robust hatch cover designs, mandatory survival suits for crew members on winter voyages, and the installation of position-indicating beacons on all vessels. These measures have undoubtedly made the Great Lakes safer. Today, the story of the Edmond Fitzgerald lives on, immortalized in Gordon Lightfoot's iconic 1976 ballad, "The Wreck of the Edmond Fitzgerald." The song captured the public's imagination and brought the tragedy into homes across the world. For the families of the crew, the wreck is a gravesite. The site is protected under law, and diving is strictly regulated to ensure it remains an undisturbed, final resting place. The mystery of her final moments may never be solved with absolute certainty. Was it faulty hatches, a hidden reef, or the wrath of the lake in the form of rogue waves? Perhaps it was a combination of all three. What we do know is that on a stormy November night, a proud ship and her 29 crew members were swallowed by Lake Superior, leaving behind a legacy of questions, a haunting melody, and a powerful reminder of the unforgiving power of the Great Lakes. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history.